Direct from Rumours International in beautiful Toowoomba, this is the TRL Centenary Dinner celebrating the 100th year of the Toowoomba Rugby League. Your hosts for the evening are Jeff McDonald and Paul Reedy. But first, here's Andrew O'Brien.
Well, welcome to the 2019 Toowoomba Rugby League Centenary Dinner. And look, we are really looking forward to tonight. And one of the inductees into the Toowoomba team of the century is Mick Matson. And we have his relations here. We've got Ray.
Yes.
And we've got Nev.
Hello.
Now, Nev, what do you remember of the great Mick Matson?
Last time I saw him, I was 12, so he was a giant. I looked way up to him. The hands were huge, and just a lovely man.
Yeah. And what about yourself, Ray?
I last spoke to him when I was 18-year-old. Wasn't long before he passed away. And as Nev said, he was just a gentle giant. He was unbelievable fellow to talk to. He was just an incredible man. You know, we live in awe of what he did for the Toowoomba Rugby League and Australian Rugby League. So.
Yeah, well, of course, he made the Queensland team of the century in 2008, and it's always nice to have these accolades to keep his memory alive, right?
Yeah, definitely. He, he just oozed what a lot of people thought on rugby league. And I remember one thing he said to me a lot of years ago. He said, money will be the root of all evil to rugby league. He never believed in people getting paid.
Well, that's quite amazing. If he was still going, he would have been on a pretty wicket now, wouldn't he, Nev?
Yes, definitely. But he's a very humble man too. So, but wonderful man.
All right, guys. I really hope you enjoy your night. It's going to be a magical night, isn't it, Nev?
Yes, I hope so. Yeah, it'd be great to see all these faces. Yeah.
And same for you, Ray?
Yes, it's great to see a lot of old faces I played rugby league against here tonight too, so it's really good.
Good on you. All right, enjoy the night, guys.
So once again, last thing, just welcome. Have a good night. It's been pretty good so far. Janine will only had one little drama so far, so if we get through the rest of the night and survive it. And so enjoy your night. Thanks very much. Welcome along. And I've shaken about 50 hands so far, so there's a few to go. Cheers.
Thank you, Brian. Brian Gilroy, ladies and gentlemen. He's done a mountain of work together with his small but very industrious committee to pull this evening together. So well done, Brian. Give me another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic. Tremendous. Now, it gives me a great deal of pleasure now to introduce a chap who waxed lyrical at the Valley Centenary. He's a man well known for many comedians. Last time he was here was when our mayor conducted what was called at the time the Seal the Deal, which was for the Toowoomba Second Range Crossing, and of course away at least at the longest for the Second Range Crossing to actually in a school in also been or had stints on Hey Hey It's Saturday. He's been on Celebrity Family Feud. He's the author of The Powers Bitter History of the New South Wales League Finals, the finals of 100 years of National Rugby League Finals, our game celebration of the Brisbane Rugby League, 1909 to 1987. But underlining all this, ladies and gentlemen, his passion for rugby league runs through. And it stems from this place up a hill called Toowoomba. Can you please give Steve Haddon a big round of applause?
Gentlemen, the bloke in the wheelchair down there, where are you, Bobby Banks? In your heyday. A movie star Toowoomba champion. My father-in-law has all this stuff. He's brought up with him. Make sure you seek him out over on table 10, ladies and gentlemen. He's got a picture of the last 6 surviving members of the 1925 side walking across the Athletic Oval in 1970 before a Belinda Cup game and being met by the crowd. It's just tremendous stuff. There's a picture of Tim McCaffrey and all sorts of stuff. It's just fantastic. What a wonderful night. I brought with me, folks, this jersey that I acquired, and you know how hard they are. Doug Muir's a mate of mine, and I would beg Doug Muir, I'd say, Doug, you've got to get me a jersey. You've got to find someone that'll sell me their Toowoomba jersey, because in the day, when you played in this jersey, you gave it back to the Toowoomba Rugby League, and then it was taken out of the bag and given to the next bloke. But Dougie in 1970, after Toowoomba won the grand final when Cowley kicked that goal, he was given this jersey. And I was at him, you've got to find me a jersey. One day he surrendered to my charm and he's given me this jersey. And it's signed by everyone, ladies and gentlemen, with the addition of some key people here tonight. In Peter Lawton, the captain in 1970, who's with us here tonight. Was there ever a greater Toowoomba fly half than Johnny Gleeson? I don't think so. And Platsy, Greg Platts and Bobby has signed it. Adding to names like Frankie Drake and Gary Sutton and Alan Rissman and Ronnie Beecham and Maxie Higgins and Paddy McCarthy and Cowley. I hopped in the car one day, I rang him up and said, Cowley, will you sign my jersey? He went up and had morning tea up at Taldi with John and his wife Catherine, Wayne Lindenberg, Ted Irvine, Dougie Muir, Cracker, Alan Smith and the late Billy Pollard. It's all there. That jersey, that's you are looking at all, it's a sad life, isn't it? You're looking at all I ever wanted in my life. That's it. Signed by those very people. All I ever wanted. Do you think you're worthy of finding a place alongside those names? Please make yourself known to me during the course of the night. Look, thank you for the opportunity, Brian and Jeff, to say a few words tonight. As I, folks, recall the wide-eyed 8-year-old gazing across the Athletic Oval in 1966 as the Poms walked onto the ground, took the field, who would have thought I'd be here with such luminaries tonight celebrating a history 100 years in the making. There's something kids, and there's kids here tonight, they talk about turning your dreams into a reality. Well, I have ticked that box tonight. Folks, thank you for having me. And thank you to all those players who are here tonight. That's the most important thing I can do. Thank you to all those players who have brought the room such incredible enjoyment as we have embarked on the rugby league journey through Toowoomba. Now, a half century, 53 years ago, back in 1966, Toowoomba was a vastly different place. No mobile phones, no air conditioning. In any of the homes that I visited, you rode your push bike from one end of the town to the other whenever you wanted, spilled into the bush down the range, or caught the Saturday matinee at Bob Dodd's Empire Theatre. I had my first kiss in the back row in 1970. Judy Drysdale, what a year it was. Toowoomba win the Bulimba Cup and I caught the first pass. And of course the CBD bustled, didn't it? You got dressed up to go to pickets. And Toowoomba had everything. I mean, you sometimes went years without having to need to drive to Brisbane. The fuzzy black and white TV coverage of Brisbane games, Brisbane club games, didn't arrive until 1969, so you either went to the ground and watched it, or you listened on the radio. And Bob Marnie, Dougie McIntyre and Des McGovern, whose son Des Jr. was a mate of mine at Toowoomba Grammar, we welcome him here tonight. They were the big names in the day, weren't they? Dougie McIntyre and Des McGovern, before the great late Pat O'Shea came along and just took it to another level. So for me, getting inside the Athletic Oval was the ultimate treat. My father took me to see the Poms that day in 66, and just before she died in 2017, my mother, Helen, told me that she has never ever in my life seen me more excited than the day said we're going to watch Toowoomba and the Poms. Do you remember the first time that you saw Toowoomba play the Poms? Was there ever a big occasion, ever, in Toowoomba than when they came to town? Not in my world there wasn't. The walk down Arthur Street, the city's pride on the line, the famous sky blue with the big red numbers and the St Kilda socks, launching themselves at those Pommy bastards with their collars turned up, all arms and elbows, with legs and jerseys the colour of ivory. That was until Lenny Brunner and Billy Pollard rolled them around in the red soil of the Darling Downs for 80 minutes. There could be no better introduction to the game. Heroes and villains, ultra-violence on tap, a cross between Batman and World Championship Wrestling. After the game, I waited at the players' gate as the combatants passed by, heads bandaged, noses bent, teeth missing. Then came the great John McDonald, the great man then playing for Valleys, Queensland and Australia. He signed my Johnny Raper How to Play Rugby League book. There was no turning back. And it was to John in 1990 who introduced me to Ken Arthurson, which launched a personal journey that produced 5 rugby league books with no cracker. There is no Channel 9. And Jeff Gill, of course, a great identity, the late Jeff Gill, a great identity in Toowoomba Rugby League, was my inspiration for writing the history of the Brisbane Rugby League. See, for me, it all comes back to this. I'll never forget either, ladies and gentlemen. Next year, my dad took me to see Toowoomba play St George, and in a black and white world, that was the first time that I realised St George had a big red V. There it was in living colour. The old man and I sitting under the scoreboard on the hill. One of Toowoomba's best was Big John Coonan, a.k.a. Fury, who I'd seen in Pittsburgh's first premiership a week or two earlier in 1967. They beat Valley. John taught me at grammar. And a member of the Valley's 1965 premiership team was Ronnie Nayland, who taught me at boys prep. Great teachers. And Ron later won the jackpot on Sale of the Century and bought a nursery at the top of the range opposite Wise's restaurant. You'd remember Ron. Back in the day, my mother would give me, every Sunday morning, 20 cents to put in the plate at the Sunday school at the old Neal Street Methodist Church. But her charity soon found a higher purpose. A pioneer program and the free admission to the athletic oval, to watch the under-16s and under-18s and be home in time for roast lunch and the wrestling by midday. Brilliant. I would sit transfixed to the colour and the excitement in front of me, while the famous pinhead who collected bottles for cash whirled around me. My mother later told me that she always knew where I was and where the 20 cents had gone. Valleys became my team of choice. The mighty Roosters. The club was charging through a run of 10 successive grand finals, 1963 to 72, and writing this, the names come flooding back. Blood and guts, Bobby Costa. He was really my favourite player. Hoeing into Frankie Purcell or Big Danny Ryan, and the fleet-footed maestros, Paddy McCarthy and Dougie Muir, with all-white speedsters Wayne Bennett or Ronnie Beecham, or the great Okie halfback Dickie Rose in hot pursuit. In 1970, my father, a doctor, was called to an emergency. So Mum stepped in and took me to the famous Bulimba Cup final, where Wattles fullback John Cowley kicked Toowoomba to victory with a towering penalty after the bell, 18-17 Toowoomba against Brisbane. Any of you here tonight, put up your hands who were there that day. Fantastic. Fantastic. No victory for mine before or since, and I'm talking about grand finals and state of origin matches. I was a little bit older than you, mate. No victory has ever been sweeter than the victory achieved by Captain Peter Lawton here with us tonight, and names like Ronnie Beecham, Danny Ryan, Graham Tucker, Dickie Rose, Bobby Costa, Danny Ryan. They are forever etched in rugby league folklore in this part of the world. Mum found us a seat in front of the bar next to the grandstand at the northern end. No place for the faint-hearted for my mother. She's never been to a game of rugby league since. A year later, I even got to wear at Valleys, the famous Valleys, the old North Sydney jersey with the big red V and the rooster. Got to wear it as a junior. My first game against South at Holy Name Oval
in 1971. 12 I was. I don't ever remember being prouder. Big Herb Steinholt taught us the rudiments of the game on the famous Lindsay Street slope at the top of Queen's Park in his suit and pork pie hat. And before he gets the Toowoomba bypass completed, I want the oval flattened, Paul Antonio, who's here with us tonight. Shame on you. Such experiences, and everyone here in this room has them, don't you? They stay with you forever. A few months ago, I found John Cowley in the phone book and drove up to Allora and had morning tea with John and Catherine. John signed the jersey I have with me. After that famous game, it was gifted to John. Normally you had to give it back, but gifted to Doug on that particular day. A spiritual experience to meet John Cowley, I've got to tell you. Tonight is about memories. It's about my memories. It's about your memories. How lucky are we to have been there when these great things happen?
Well, it's a great honour to have the man that's sitting beside me come to the dinner tonight, the legendary Bobby Banks, and welcome to Toowoomba to this historical occasion, Bob.
I'm very pleased to be here.
You had some wonderful times up here, especially in the 50s. Tell us a little bit about them, Bob.
Oh, I don't know how to start. But I really did enjoy it because I love football.
Yeah, that's right. And you had a wonderful history, especially with the Roosters down in Sydney.
Yeah, I only had the 1 year with the Roosters, but they won again last week too. Or last year, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I bet you've been excited about coming up, and the acknowledgement of being in the team of the century must be very proud for you, Bobby.
Very pleased. I don't know why they picked me, but
I think we do. Look, very much enjoy your night, and thanks so much for speaking to us today.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're moving straight into the TRL team of the century. Now, you've seen how seamlessly we went through that. We will have a few more people up on stage. So as you're called forward, if you'd like to come forward, and you'll be presented with a beautifully framed picture from Cindy McDonald, which would be fantastic. Actually, give Cindy a round of applause because she did a fantastic job of this team of the century, the images that she took. And then following those, we'll have the players to stay on stage and the representatives of the players to stay on stage for a group photo. Annette will be taking the shots. Annette's in front here. And then once that's finished, of course, there's opportunities to have other family photos as well, which will be over on our left into this section over here. So hopefully we'll get through that okay. But please start, enjoy your meal, and we'll continue on with the presentation.
Okay, we'd like to invite our Mayor and also our patron of Toowoomba Rugby League to assist with our presentations, Mr. Paul Antonio. If you put your hands together for Paul. Doing a fantastic job throughout the Toowoomba region. And the growth of Toowoomba is testament to the great work the council is doing under his leadership. So the first thing we're going to do is do our TRL Team of the Century, and they're sponsored by United Power, so thanks to Steve Lee and Jamie Folks. So a big thank you to them for providing all the prints here tonight that each of our Team of the Century representatives are going to receive tonight. And our first one, you've heard many stories about him. He's an icon of Toowoomba Rugby League and our fullback for the Team of the Century. He was born in Sydney. It's Mr. Frank Drake, but he called Toowoomba home. He played for the Brothers Club here in Toowoomba, represented Queensland 21 times, Australia on 2 occasions. He was often described as another Clive Churchill, famous for wearing the first pair of white boots on the football field when he played for Balmain in Sydney, and of course continued wearing them on his way through Toowoomba and Queensland. Ladies and gentlemen, our fullback this year for our Team of the Century is Mr. Frank Drake. Please put your hands together. 80 years of age, Frank is, and he's still working today as an electrician. So we might ask Frank to come over, and Jeff will have a few words with one of the icons. of Toowoomba Rugby League.
Now, Frank, your reputation precedes you. Actually, we've heard Steve had mentioned you half a dozen times. You were a player's favourite player. When you came to Toowoomba for the first time from Balmain, what brought you here, first of all? Why did you come here? And what was your expectation when you arrived in Toowoomba?
Yes, well, I was understudy to Keith Barnes, who I still regard as the greatest goal kicker of all time. And we played in a game when the try was only 3 points. So goal kickers were worth their while more so than they are today. And Keith, I still maintain, is the greatest goal kicker of all time. He got us into the semi-finals in 1958. Manly were leading us 10-6, and Keith Barnes scored all the goals from kicking from anywhere from halfway. And so I was 19 and he was 23. I read an article about Toowoomba, said what a wonderful place it was, and I felt I wanted to play fullback, so I decided to make the effort to come to Toowoomba. And I wrote to the brothers at St Mary's, who taught me in Sydney, and they put me under a guy by the name of Freddie Gilbert, who I believe played in the 1930s, and he introduced me and wrote a letter, and I was on the train, 24 hours on the train to get to Toowoomba via Wollongara. Don't think that runs anymore. And I arrived into Toowoomba and I wasn't sure whether I was well received or not, because I had a reputation, unfortunately, that preceded me. There was a paper called the Down Star in Toowoomba. I think it was a bit like the Mirror in Sydney, a bit of a rag paper. And all it said was that the Sydney Bodgie has arrived in Toowoomba. Well, I can't grow here anymore, but so the reception wasn't too good. And the all-white club, actually, I can tell the story. One of the players that was relegated to look after him was a guy by the name of Ripper Doyle. And Ripper was everything. He actually coached, he played, he was an administrator, he did everything in rugby league. He was just one of those guys. And I think the Toowoomba Rugby, or the all-white club, felt they had to look after me a little bit. So we had a trial game. And this is a story I'd like to tell about Ripper Doyle. I didn't know at the time that Ripper had poor eyesight. And the brothers from down in Brisbane came up to have a trial game. And they had a guy by the name of Mick Shannon playing fullback, so he was a good rival. But Ripper got the ball and he broke through and I was following. That was my game. My fullback play was following everyone. Johnny Gleeson, Alan Gill, Ronnie Tate, whoever was there, I'd follow them. And I had a reputation for scoring tries. And Ripper threw the ball to me. I had these cut-down shoes, which is another problem that I had at the time. They were coloured shoes. No one ever wore coloured shoes before that. So that was a problem. And I threw the ball. Someone dived at me and the shoe came off. So I threw the ball back to Ripper Doyle and he went over and scored a try. And I was sitting on the ground trying to put these shoes on. And Ripper came back and gave me the greatest serve of all time. He said, "Don't ever do that to me again." He said, "I can't see. You've thrown the ball to me." He said, "Go and score the try. I don't care whether you've got shoes on or not." And so that was one of the great big serves that old Ripper gave. But there was another occasion. We came up here for a function many years later. Ripper, at that stage, was having trouble with his legs. And unfortunately, Ripper he lost his two legs through sugar diabetes. But I was one of the boys that would bring him up, and Alan Gill, one of our teammates, we brought Ripper up to Brisbane. We stayed at Keith's place on the range. We went to the function and Ripper spoke. I think it was the 50-year reunion. Ripper spoke for an hour and a half. He just was one of those guys that lived rugby league. And it was the second time in my life he gave me a great big serve. What happened was Dougie McIntyre came that night too, and he was principal of Downlands for a while, and Doug filled it out. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and Doug said to me, listen, Frank, if you hadn't have come to Queensland, I would have been playing for all white fullback. And I said to Doug, well, you would have scored 14 tries like I did. And Doug said, no, you only scored 13 tries. I said, no, I scored 14. He said, I would have only scored 13, I'm sure. And Dougie had had a few beers that night. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and Ripper said, well, I'm going to bed. And he said to Alan Gill and myself, he said, look, I want you to take my legs off. So I took the left leg off, and Alan Gill took the right leg off, and got him into bed, and put a blanket on just and got cold for the night. But he was downstairs, and we went upstairs at Pete's place, a double-story place. And as I came down next morning, about 9 o'clock in the morning, it was the greatest, Ripper gave me the greatest serve of all time. He said, you know what you've done to me? I said, what did I do this time? He said, you left the bloody light on all night and I couldn't turn it off. So that was one of the stories we had.
As Frank heads up to the stage, don't go too far away, mate. You're staying here, but you can grab a seat, mate, and a bit of water too, probably. Okay, you're right. Righto, mate. Well done. Frank Drake, ladies and gentlemen, our fullback. He was, in fact, the first Australian fullback to score a try against Great Britain in 1962. He'll tell you about that later on as well, ladies and gentlemen. Well done, Frank. Now, our first winger, ladies and gentlemen, wearing the number 2 in the Toowoomba Rugby League Team of the Century, is Des McGovern. Give me a round of applause. Des Jr. will be coming forward to have a photograph up on stage with the Mayor and also Brian Gilroy. Born in Toowoomba, in fact remained in Toowoomba, one of those ones who achieved the highest of highs from Toowoomba and stayed here, playing from 1950s or the 1940s to the 1950s, brothers, and represented Queensland 17 times, Australia 7 times, played in the Toowoomba Cup teams coached by Duncan Thompson, retired having scored the most tries in the history of the Toowoomba Cup with 27. One of the Darling Downs region's best known radio sporting voices during a 36-year working partnership with broadcaster Pat O'Shea, and often referred to in newspaper reports as the mercurial Des McGovern. He actually was a dual kangaroo tourist, Des McGovern, in 1952-53 and 56-57, playing the 3 test matches against Great Britain. Wearing the number 2 in the Team of the Century, Des McGovern.
Our next inductee, I suppose, into the Toowoomba Rugby League Team of the Century, wearing the number 3. He's known all over the country, and it was Tom Gorman. So congratulations to Tom. His nephew, John Ryan, will come up and accept on his behalf. He played for brothers while he was in Toowoomba in the 20s and the 30s. 34 Queensland representative jerseys, 10 for his country, Australia. He captained both Queensland and had the honour of captaining Australia. He was voted in the top 100 footballers of the 20th century. Tom Gorman has also been inducted in the Sports Australian Hall of Fame. He's the only Toowoomba Rugby League player to be in there. He was the first Queenslander to have the honour of leading a kangaroo team. So congratulations to Tom Gorman and his nephew John Ryan.
Yeah, unfortunately John couldn't be here as a late apology, so unfortunately he couldn't be here, but we'll certainly ensure that we get a photograph for posterity anyway. So well done to Tom Gorman, wearing the number 3. Now I should say, ladies and gentlemen, you noticed that I didn't interview Des. That's not because we had an extended interview with Frank. It's just, if there are some names that will be recognised a little later on, ladies and gentlemen, as well. But congratulations to Tom Gorman, our first centre 3/4. Wearing the number 4, ladies and gentlemen, our second centre 3/4 is John Cracker McDonald AM. And Cracker's with us this evening, so he'll come forward for a photograph. Obviously born in Toowoomba, playing years 60s and 70s. Club is Valleys. Queensland 9 games, New South Wales 4, represented Australia on 13 occasions, and was vice-captain of Australia on a tour to New Zealand. A highly respected player, coach and administrator, captain Manly from the wing, in fact, in the club's grand final loss to the South Rabbitohs in 1970. captain coach of Toowoomba and coached Queensland in the late 70s, and was in fact, and is in fact, the most successful state of origin coach in origin history by either New South Wales or Queensland, with a 100% winning record, one game, one win in 1980. President of the Queensland Rugby League for some 20 years, chairman of the Australian Rugby League, chairman of the International Rugby League, Queensland Sport Administrator of the Year, and world record holder for the 440 yards, and was one of the first Toowoomba Region Sports Hall of Fame inductees in 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, wearing the number 4 for the TRL Team of the Century, John Cracker McDonald.
Playing outside of him, though, in the number 5 in our TRL Team of the Century, none other than Michael Hancock, all the way from Stanthorpe. So congratulations, Michael, as he comes forward. Played for the Brisbane Broncos. Now get this, 5 premierships with the Broncos in 92, 93, 97, 98 and 2000. Congratulations to Michael. He started as a 17-year-old for the Toowoomba Clydesdales in the Winfield State League. In 1989, he became the youngest footballer of either state to play State of Origin series, and in that series he scored 2 tries. Represented Queensland in State of Origin 16 times, his country 18 times, and he's one of the favourite sons here of Toowoomba. Wearing the number 5 in our Team of the Century, Michael Hancock. We'll get him over to have a little bit of a chat with Jeff.
Well done, mate. Thank you. Go on here, mate. Steve asked the audience who was their favourite player. I've got to say, you were one of mine. You don't have to blush, but you were certainly Mick Hancock. I loved watching you playing, whether it's here locally, the Winfield Cup, under the stewardship of Platsy, which would have been a memory for sure as a youngster, as a 17-year-old, ladies and gentlemen, playing for Toowoomba under Greg Platts, who's here this evening as well. But Mick, I wanted to just wind the clock a little bit further. One of the founding players in 1988 at the Bronx, playing alongside of Gene Miles and Wally Lewis and Alan Langer, under the stewardship of Wayne Bennett. We also had one of our other players from up here, Mark Hone, of course, from Pittsburgh, in that squad. What was it like from a Stanthorpe Gremlin going down to Brisbane with all the hype and excitement and these players around you that obviously you would have idolised as well?
Oh, it was obviously a big challenge. Playing in Toowoomba, it's, back in the days it was work and then train overnight time, and we did that in the initial times at the Broncos. I had to have a job during the day. I was earning $120 a week selling spare parts, which I did in Stanthorpe at McCosker Motors, and so it was a bit of a challenge, especially as a 17-year-old to go down. I was originally going to be a raider because Wayne invited me to go down and to go down to Canberra and become a raider, which wouldn't have been too bad. Their team in the 90s was probably just as good as ours. So, but to go down there and to be involved in a new franchise, so it was something new, something fresh. Again, then the team that we assembled, there was a lot of expectation, a lot of pressure. Especially from the older guys, but me was an unknown and got an opportunity. So took it with both hands, and I'm still there today, being involved with the Broncos. So it's great.
Yeah, fantastic, Mick. And you're also, when you came back from Salford, a bit of a stint over in the cold. 2003, you were one of the first Hall of Famers of the Bronx as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Who was in that first 4? I think.
I can't. Well, obviously Wally, Gino, myself, and Alan Lang. I think were probably the first, one of the first 4. So, look, it's an honour to be here tonight with some of the gentlemen that's in the Toowoomba Team of the Century, and I feel blessed to be talked about in the same breath. And obviously I'll be one of the youngest ones in the team. Obviously I see Jonathan there as well, but it's always an honour and to go back to history. I'm a bit of a history buff. My grandfather played for Stanthorpe back in the 30s as well, so Stanthorpe got their Team of the Century this year as well, so looking forward to that. But to be named is something special, and to be here, it's quite an honour.
Good on you, Mick. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Hancock, wearing the number 5. Our next player, ladies and gentlemen, has already been mentioned once again on several occasions. He's the 5'8" in the Toowoomba Rugby League Team of the Century, Mr. Bob Banks. Born in Toowoomba, New South Wales, playing years of 50s and 60s. Club Newtown here locally, Queensland 27 occasions, Australia 18, and he also captained Queensland. He began his senior league career in the Newcastle competition, also played for the Eastern Suburbs Club in the ARL in the 1950s. So not dissimilar to Frank Drake, started in New South Wales and then came to Queensland. Played in Charters Towers, played in Rockhampton, Cunnamulla, Cairns, Tully. In Toowoomba he played for Newtown, as I mentioned earlier, from 52 to 58. A great field general, ball distributor and brilliant defender. Ladies and gentlemen, our 5'8" for the Toowoomba Rugby League team of the century, Bobby Banks. Fantastic, what a legend, ladies and gentlemen. Bobby Banks, the 5'8" for the team of the century. I wouldn't want to be picking this team.
Very lucky, Bobby, 89 last week, so happy birthday, many happy returns. And to travel up from Newcastle to be here with us, it's such an honour. I've heard the name many times, Bobby Banks, and it was actually Bobby Marjorie Banks and shortened down to Bobby Banks. Who was the person who actually sort of brought you to Toowoomba to play rugby league?
It's a long story actually, but I got this job to go to Charters Towers in North Queensland, and while I was there I got a letter from a bloke in Toowoomba by the name of Ken McCaffrey, who I'd played with the year before with Eastern Suburbs. And Ken, in his letter to me, said, Bob, you better come down here to Toowoomba. He said, we've got the best coach in the world down here. And I said, yeah, you know. I'd be telling myself I was only 18, you know. Anyhow, I thought, towards the end of the year I realised that I wasn't a coach's, you know what, and
I think that famous coach was Duncan Thompson, am I right?
Yes. Anyhow, I thought to myself, I think I'll go down to Toowoomba just to see this bloke. Duncan Thompson, his name was, and anyhow, I arrived down here. It's the best thing I ever did was come down here because I ended up signing up with in Toowoomba, and Duncan Thompson, fair dinkum, he was a wonderful coach. You know, he'd get us out in the middle of the grandstand sometimes, the whole team, no training, just everyone just sat down and listened to Duncan, and he'd tell us what we should be doing, you know.
That's my sort of coach, that there's no training and we just get to sit around. I'll be happy with that. So you come down in 1952, in the same year you got the honour of representing Queensland.
I don't know. I don't know. I've forgotten most of them. But, I don't know. To me, when I was a young fella, you know, Bob, as you get older, you lose your memory, you know. And I said, oh, yeah. The fair dinkum, she was right on the ball. No, fair dinkum, I've really lost my memory.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands out. 89, travelled from Newcastle, one of Toomba's greatest, our 5'8" of the century, Bobby Banks.
How good was that? What a legend. Well done, Rita. Good on you, Bobby. Fantastic. Oh, that's unreal.
And in his halves partner, though, wearing the number 7, none other than the famous JT, Jonathan Thurston. Jono can't be here with us tonight. He'll be up next week when our brothers celebrate their 100-year anniversary. So we look forward to being able to catch up with him then. But he played in the 2000s. He come to Toowoomba as a young student to be coached at St Mary's by Paul Kenny, and he went on from there to represent Queensland 37 times, Australia 38 times, captaining both state and country, earmarked to be one of the future immortals of the game. Ladies and gentlemen, our halfback is Jonathan Thurston.
Well done, JT. The front row, ladies and gentlemen, wearing 8. He's been mentioned several times this evening as well. Can you please congratulate our front row forward wearing number 8, the TRL team of the century, Herb Steinor. Now, Herb's grandson Ian is with us this evening. He'll come forward as a representative of Herb to be part of the photographs. Born in Pittsworth or Springside, playing in the 20s and 30s. His club was the Valleys Roosters. Played 51 times for Queensland, 10 times for Australia. He captained Queensland and Australia. He's voted in the top 100 footballers of the 20th century. He had to ride, get this, he had to ride 39 kilometres on a horse to play for Warra on bad quality fields. He did not stop, he did not first represent his state until the age of 26. He was 26 before he represented Queensland. He then set a record of playing 30 consecutive interstate matches. In 1933, he was part of a Queensland squad that included the entire Toowoomba representative team, and Steinort led a Clydesdales 13 against New South Wales. In 1928, at the age of 29, Herb was selected to play for the Australian team. Steinort was the last Queensland-based player to captain a Kangaroo tour until Wally Lewis in 1986. He was the captain of Australia in the famous Battle of Brisbane Test against England. In the Toowoomba Cricket Association, his bowling record has only just been beaten over 15 years ago, 15 years old, his bowling record. So there you go. A multi-sports person, our front row forward, wearing the number 8, Herb Steinor.
Our hooker for the TRL team of the century. He was born in Warwick, and it's Dan Dempsey. Put your hands together as Marcus O'Dempsey comes forward to accept on his behalf. Born in Warwick, played in the 20s and 30s. His local club here, though, was the Valleys Roosters. He represented Queensland 35 times, the country 7 times. He was voted in the top 100 footballers of the 20th century. In the famous Battle of Brisbane Test in 1932, Dempsey was forced off the field with a broken arm early in the second half. Dempsey, with his arm placed in splints, began weeping on the touchline because both the ambulanceman and the team's manager, Harry Sunderland, wouldn't let him back into the game. That's how much it meant to him. Our hooker for the Toowoomba Rugby League team of the century, number 9, Dan Dempsey.
So we've got Marcus O'Dempsey, a grandson, and granddaughter Bev Flannery here as well this evening to join in the celebrations. What a great hooker. He sounds a bit like you, mate, just wanting to stay out there on the field.
Yeah, I like the other bit about the coach.
About the running.
Didn't have to train. I love that bit.
I thought you might.
And the oranges at half time.
So well done to those guys. Now, our other front rower joining Herb Steinor, wearing number 10, Peter Mick Madsen. Now, Mick will be represented this evening by Ray Madsen, who'll be also there tomorrow, and Nev's here as well, a great photographer, Nev Madsen. I'm not sure if both or one will be coming up here. Mick was born in Tallymarel at Warwick, playing in the years of the 20s and 30s. Here comes Ray, 20s and 30s, club Brothers and Stanthorpe. Represented Queensland 48 times, Australia 9 times, captained Queensland and Australia. His actual name is Mads Peter Mick Madsen. Voted in the top 100 footballers of the 20th century, could famously lift a horse-drawn plough with one arm. In his first game for Brothers, he arrived carrying a Hessian bag for his playing gear. Had a first-grade career of 17 seasons with the Brothers Club, then went and captained coach Stanthorpe at the end of his career. He first represented Queensland at the age of 27. He then made a record 34 appearances against New South Wales At 34, Madsen was recalled into the 1936 Australian side. As a late call-up, Madsen, get this one, Madsen was the first Australian player to fly to a test match. There you go, in 1936. And of course, tomorrow we will see the Madsen Rasmussen Trophy final, which immortalises the name of Mick Madsen and commemorates what a great servant of rugby league he was. Wearing the number 10, ladies and gentlemen, Mick Madsen.
The next player in the Toowoomba Rugby League Team of the Century, he'll have the 11 on his back, and it's none other than Steve Price. Congratulations to Steve as he comes up. A Newtown Lions player, Queensland representative 28 times. At one stage, he was the most capped forward of the state of origin for Queensland, represented Australia 16 times. He retired as Queensland's most capped state of origin forward. He captained the Sydney club, the Bulldogs, with whom he won 2 premierships, 95 and 2004, before he went over to the Auckland club, the Warriors, where he captained them as well. He was captain of the famous Harristown High State School side, coached by former Clydesdale and Kangaroo Greg Platts, and in 2004 was awarded the Queensland State of Origin Player of the Series. Congratulations to our second rower, number 11, Steve Price.
Mate, fantastic to have you here. This would have been a tough decision for you and Joe. Joe's here this evening as well, because tonight, Jamie Lee is playing for the Giants against the Melbourne Vixens in Sydney, and you're here this evening. So there you go, that's commitment. Well, doesn't she know you're not down there watching her?
No, she does. To be honest, just before sort of tip-off, and I was a bit disappointed there was no one down there watching her, but Joe's just watching it now and we're getting pumped, so...
Oh, yeah? Probably best you're not there then. Thanks, Joe. You give us an update at the end of the night, Joe, won't you? Just so we know what's happening there. But mate, and she's in the World. This is not all about Jamie Lee, but she is in the World Cup team.
Yeah, she was
awesome.
in the Diamonds, which is good. So we'll go over next month, and we'll definitely support her. And hopefully they'll have a win.
Yeah, over to England, to Liverpool. Yeah, no, that's awesome, mate. Now you were up here would have been a month or so ago to play in a game as well, the Harristown reunion, I guess. Was that what it was called, against South? Or was that
it was Harristown Old Boys against South, so it was just going to be a one-off, but then straight after the game they said, it'd be really good as an annual event, so I said, that we're 45, it was a struggle to be able to get out and play on that night, but I'll certainly be doing a bit more training if that's the case.
Good work. One of your colleagues, Brad Young's down there, he was on the wing in that team, I think, if you recall that one, Youngie, down there, you remember him? He was in the stand, was he? Cheering
Most wingers were in the stand.
Mate, your career is phenomenal, and Rito read it all out, but the influence that you had on the likes of a player who we've heard is in the same team as well, Jonathan Thurston, was probably epitomised when in 2004 you couldn't play. You got injured the week before the grand final, and then he presented you with his grand final medal, grand final ring, I should say, wearing the 18 jersey. Can you just tell us a little bit about how JT came down there and the mentorship that you had with him and seeing him come through to what he's achieved now?
Yeah, so Jono come down with, I think it was with his auntie, and I was given the moratorium from the club. We want to sign this kid, he goes pretty good. So I just sort of said that I was thinking about how we could get Jono down earlier because every club wanted him. So I just sort of said, mate, if you're going to come to Sydney, I think it'd be a good idea if you come down now because we get to play a bit of footy before the pre-season. It's not sort of good to come in and do the pre-season first. You get really homesick straight away and you mightn't last. So, luckily he took that advice. He come down and it did help him, but he was really homesick. And, I think the thing with Jono is I sort of appreciated what he was, with homesickness and that type of thing. And we had a house at the time which had like Nate Miles in it, Sunnyville Williams, Roy Asatasi, Jonathan Thurston. There was a little bit of a crew there. They were going
some wild nights.
Yeah, some wild nights. But you sort of understood. And at Canterbury, a lot of us were from the country, so we all did stick together and we sort of knew what you were going through. Dean Pay was that for me. He actually went back home to Dubbo and then had another crack at it and obviously played for Australia. So I went through it and it was really hard. You come from a place at Toowoomba back then it was about 110,000 population. You go to Sydney, 4 million, it's a bit of a difference. So, and we really got a good bond, and obviously having him come from Toowoomba, I know that he wasn't born here, but that's where he come from, all whites. And at the time, his girlfriend was Nikki Suey, who, really good friends with the Sueys. So Nikki was down there as well, and we sort of looked after him a fair bit. And it was really cool to see him be able to take the field that night, and it's been pretty cool to see what he's done since that night. He went to the Cowboys. And,
I bet it is, mate. It's amazing. Now, mate, you finish your career at the Bulldogs, 222 games. You head over the ditch. You go to New Zealand, and that in its own right must have been a pretty tough decision to take the family over there. Jamie Lee was they were even promised you, I think, weren't they?
Yeah, I think she was 6, yeah.
6 or something. So
sucks,
as you would say. Well, you should say that because you're a member of the Order of New Zealand. But I wanted to touch on that because you had a period of time that you played 91 games for New Zealand, but such an impact that this chap had in New Zealand, he has been rated as the most favourite Australian sportsman to ever play in New Zealand, and was rewarded with a similar award as an OAM in New Zealand. That was in 2011. That must have been pretty powerful for you to receive that. Canterbury, what you did, you brought players on. New Zealand, you've done the same thing. To get that recognition in New Zealand must have been pretty special.
Yeah, it was, mate. We went there as a family, and I signed as a footy player, and what we got out of it was so much more, than footy. So, as a rugby league player, you get into the community, and there's so much you learn, and we learnt so much over there, other than the New Zealand national anthem, but a lot of other things. So, it was good for the family. And, very fond memories. It was hard to leave, hard to come back. Obviously, we come back because of family. And I suppose it really put in perspective how important family is, to you. I think as time flies by, you sort of take it for granted a bit. And, over there, family's number one. And, you sort of understand when players weren't at training sometimes. Here, that wasn't acceptable. But over there, sweet as bro, and you sort of realise what is important. So, when they said that about me, I didn't know whether that was good or bad because they don't really rate Australians very highly. So when they sort of said you're the most popular Australian sports person, you're sort of at the lower end of the food chain.
Low benchmark, you reckon?
Yeah. No, it was truly humbling. And John Key was the Prime Minister at the time. We had our testimonial, and he attended it. And I asked him to talk, and he got up and spoke, and I thought he'd bugger off. Straight after that, he stayed for the whole night. So, all that sort of stuff. It was truly humbling and very special place for us. Under 11s, it started for Toowoomba and ended up living over there.
Yeah, amazing. And the likes of Billy Pollard, Greg Platt as well, those influences in your career as well have stuck with you all the way through, I'd imagine.
Yeah, Platsy, Arthur Wrigley, Billy Pollard. You sort of get asked who are your best coaches, and I always say those guys because they cared about you as a person and trying to make you a good young man. Rugby league was our interest, hopefully they succeeded. I know they succeeded with a lot of the boys that I got to play with, and you saw at Billy's funeral and so on how many people were touched. So it's amazing and it's great, and particularly to come from this area. See these people that are here, all the names you heard of, and be able to say hello to them and meet them. And some of them we can't, but it's pretty special.
Mate, it's awesome. Now I'm going to give this bloke another couple of plugs. The company you're working for now, West Fund, he does an awesome job. If you're looking for anything, just come and see him afterwards. But the other one, he is actually on the board for the Bulldogs as well. And they seem to be starting to come good under your guidance, mate, at the moment.
Depends if you read the media.
We don't read that.
If you read the media, we're not going too good at all, but working really hard behind the scenes. We've had to make some really tough calls. You hate seeing good people leave the club, but the club's bigger than any individual, as we all know, and we've had to make those hard calls, and it mightn't happen tomorrow, but we'll get the club back there, and hopefully we get the opportunity to do that. Our members will stick with us, and we'll be back up there in the better end of the table come the next year or so.
Good on you, mate. And Queensland to win tomorrow night. Steve Price, ladies and gentlemen, there he is, wearing the number 11. In the back row with Stephen Price, ladies and gentlemen, is none other than Duncan Hall. Give me a big round of applause. Duncan Hall Jr. is with us this evening. He's coming forward. Born in Rockhampton, playing in the 40s and 50s. His local club here was Newtown. 24 times representing Queensland, 23 for Australia. Another player who is voted in the top 100 footballers of the 20th century, selected in the Australian team of the century, the only TRL player, in fact, to be selected. In his later years, worked at the Broncos Leagues Club, was Queensland and Queensland State of Origin manager, Duncan played for the Newtown club here in Toowoomba, in the Bulimba club for 51, 52 and 53. He also played for Rockhampton Brothers, Brisbane Valleys, Home Hill, Newtown and Brisbane West. Ladies and gentlemen, wearing number 12, Duncan Hall.
Wearing the 13 in our Toowoomba Rugby League Team of the Century, none other than the famous name Elton Rasmussen. Put your hands together for Elton Rasmussen. And accepting on his behalf is Brett Rasmussen. So as Brett comes forward to accept on behalf of Elton, he played for the famous club here in Toowoomba Brothers, Queensland representative 13 times, New South Wales 7, but represented his country 19 times as an Australian rep player. He played for the famous St George Dragons during the second half of their 11-year consecutive premiership winning run for the New South Wales Rugby League. He was first selected for Queensland in 1959. That year he played for Queensland, where they had victory over New South Wales, attracting over 35,000 spectators, which set the new record for the ground. Rasmussen, captain coach Brisbane South in 69, and he again earned Queensland representative that year. Ladies and gentlemen, wearing the number 13, Elton Rasmussen.
Well done, and great to have the family here with us this evening. So we're on the reserve bench now. Number 14 has been mentioned plenty of times tonight, Ian Ripper Doyle. Born in Toowoomba, played in the 1950s, played for the Brothers Club, position of lock, played for Queensland 7 times, Australia 7 times, a gifted lock forward. His older brother Joe Doyle was a second rower and played rugby league for Australia once and Queensland 12 times. Ripper Doyle stayed with the All Whites club as their first grade coach after he retired. He coached the Queensland Maroons from 1965 to 1967. Ladies and gentlemen, he is one of the greats of this region, and rightly so. He is in the team of the century. Please give him a round of applause. In the 14, Ian Ripper Doyle.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic player. And joining him in the number 15 jersey is Vic Armbruster. His real name was Lewis Victor Armbruster. He's represented tonight by Anne Clark as Anne comes forward. He played in the 20s and the 30s. He was a second rower. He played for the Valleys Club in Toowoomba. He represented Queensland 26 times, New South Wales once, and Australia 8 times.
Susan, you can come up as well.
Come on, ladies. He was voted in the top 100 footballers of the 20th century. He gained state selection for New South Wales in 1922. He then came to Toowoomba for Valleys, and then he went on to represent Queensland 26 times. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in number 15 for our Toowoomba Rugby League Team of the Century, Vic Armbruster.
Great to have the ladies here with us this evening to celebrate the evening. Well done, ladies and gentlemen. Well done to Vic Armbruster and to Anne and Susan. Thank you very much for coming along tonight. Give another big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Wearing the number 16 in the team of the century is Shane Webke. Born in Leeburn, played in the 90s and the 2000s from the Wattles Club, front rower, Queensland 24 times, Australia 27 times. He did captain Queensland, voted in the top 100 footballers of the 20th century. The entire NRL club career was played at the Brisbane Broncos, and he was renowned as the best front rower in the world in his time. Alongside Glenn Lazarus and Arthur Beetson, he's regarded as one of the finest post-war front rowers. Played for the Wattles Club, as we say. Webke was scouted by Wayne Bennett when he came up to look at Stephen Price, which was interesting in its own right. That's another story. Ladies and gentlemen, wearing the 16, Shane Webke.
Yes, congratulations to Shane. Number 17, you've heard him many times here tonight as we welcome him forward, and he's here with us tonight, Johnny Gleeson, in our team of the century. Originally from Chinchilla, played in the 50s and the 60s. In Toowoomba, he played for All Whites, or the Brothers Club, and then on to Southern Suburbs. We heard Steve Haddon mention him many times. Everybody talks about John Gleeson when they refer to Toowoomba, the Clydesdales. He moved to the All Whites Club, then on to Brisbane, where he played for Winner Manly and the Brothers Club down there, where he won the 1967 BRL Premiership with the Brothers Club. In 65, he came to Toowoomba and started back playing for Souths. And he represented Queensland 25 times and Australia 10 times. He was a great halfback in his time. He's number 17 in the Toowoomba Rugby League team of the century, Johnny Gleeson. Certainly a famous name in the match.
Jackie Gleeson, mate, unreal. I can see the smile on Steve Haddon's face. Ear to ear. Look at him, like a kid in a candy store. Gleeson. Well done. Give him another big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Jackie Gleeson. Wearing the number 18 is Patrick McMahon, Cocky McMahon, ladies and gentlemen. Born in Mount Isa, playing in the 40s and 50s. He's represented this evening by Pat McMahon Jr. He'll come up forward to the stage. Welcome along, Pat. Clubs, Brothers and South. He played on the wing, represented Queensland 15 times, Australia 9 times. He played his club football around the state of Queensland, played for Mount Isa, Toowoomba's All Whites Club and Babinda. Along with many other footballers around Australia, he made his way to Toowoomba. It was the place to be, as the representatives were coached by none other than Duncan Thompson. He was captain coach of the Mitchell Club in 1956, wearing the number 18 jersey, Patrick Cocky McMahon.
So we've now named our 18 players for our TRL team of the century, and we have 2 coaches. Our first coach from the 1910s and 1920s, his name's been mentioned plenty of times tonight, none other than the famous Duncan Thompson, represented by his grandson, Duncan Stewart, as Duncan comes forward. He played for Valley's Roosters here in Toowoomba, as well as the Newtown Lions. He was a halfback. Queensland representative 17 times, New South Wales 3, and Australia 10 times, captaining Queensland, as well as a Queensland coach, voted in the top 100 footballers of the 20th century. He was the main man behind the dominance of the 1924 and 25 sides as the captain. He was shot in World War I and told he would never play football again by the doctors. He came back and represented Australia the very next year. He has 2 grandstands named after him, one in Toowoomba, one in North Sydney. He's the only person in Australia to have that honour. He also represented Queensland in cricket, in country cricket. He also represented Toowoomba in bowls. He had a handicap of 3 in golf, and he represented Queensland in tennis. He was also an Australian selector, and he won 6 straight Bulimba Cups in the 1950s. How famous is that? Our coach, Duncan Thompson. Yeah. Such is this side, full of the calibre it is, that we had to have 2 coaches in the team of the century. Ladies and gentlemen, the second coach in the Toowoomba Rugby League team of the century is Wayne Bennett. Wayne's represented this evening by his brother Bob, and born in Allara, played in the 60s and 70s, played at the Brothers Club, position of wing, played for Queensland 7 times and played tour matches for Australia. Of course, he is
was the coach of Queensland, Australia, and in fact England. Played one game for Australia on a New Zealand tour. Often regarded as the best coach in the modern game. Keen admirer of Duncan Thompson and his contract football, and he's currently sitting second on the NRL table with the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Can you please give Bob Bennett a round of applause on behalf of Wayne?
And also a big thank you, as we said earlier, to United Power, represented by Stephen Lee and Jamie Folks. We might ask them to come up. They've sponsored the awards for the Toowoomba Rugby League Team of the Century, so Folksy and Steve. And put your hands together for Steve. It was only last week that he got down on bended knee in Central Park, New York, and proposed to his longtime girlfriend, Grace. So congratulations, Grace, and to Steve. Well done on your engagement. And they've supported us tonight as our sponsors of all the awards, them lovely prints that they'll get a copy of, thanks to Cindy McDonald, who did the artistry there. And there's our Team of the Century. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Our Team of the Century for the Toowoomba Rugby League. So just recapping our Team of the Century. At fullback we had Frank Drake. On the wings was 2, Des McGovern, and 5, Michael Hancock. In the centres was 3, Tom Gorman, and 4, John Cracker McDonald. In the halves, 7, Jonathan Thurston. Up front we had 8, Herb Steinort. 10 was Mick Madsen, and the hooker was Dan Dempsey. Our second row was Steve Price and Duncan Hall, and the lock was Elton. Ian Earl, Armster, Shane Webke, Jackie Gleeson, Pat McMahon, and our 2 coaches, Duncan Thompson and Wayne Bennett.
Well, we're having a wonderful night here on Power TV here for the Team of the Century here, and we're here with the Thompson generation and grandchildren, aren't we? We've got
Duncan
and
Julie
and
Philip.
Okay, now what have we got here, Philip?
This is the 100-year 1919 commemoration of the football team. That Duncan Thompson was the captain of the team, and this is the photo. And we also have the jersey here. If you'd like to hold that for us, thank you, Andrew. Okay, thank you very much. And this is the team. This is the jersey that the Maroons are playing in tonight, as we speak, having a captain's run before the game tomorrow night. And they are training in this jersey, specially designed, and it's for sale by the QRL as well. Yes, there's 300 of those for sale, and you can buy one. Just contact the QRL.
I have seen those, and look, what a thrill it is for you to be here tonight. You know, it's just a tingle up fun, and these nights can't they go so quick, don't they?
Absolutely, and he was a wonderful grandfather. He encouraged us in any sport we wanted to play. He was a wonderful coach, hockey, tennis, swimming, athletics, whatever we did, he was right behind us, and he was there to watch us and encourage us.
And look, I've been doing the media here for a number of years, and a lot of talk has always been that everyone wanted to come to Toowoomba because Duncan was a coach here, that's right.
As we heard from Bobby Banks tonight, he came here, so many people came here to seek his guidance and his inspiration. So we're very proud of him.
Anyway, we've got a special call coming up, everything. It's such a thrill and an honour to have you here. Really enjoy the rest of the night.
And well done, Toowoomba Rugby League. We're very indebted to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sure did.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we move directly to the Hall of Fame. Now, for the Hall of Fame, I'd like to invite, who will we get up to help us there? Dr. John? Dr. John McVeigh, the Federal Member for Groom. If you'd like to come forward, the Honourable Dr. John.
And we can't have enough McDonald's.
Yeah, well, why don't we get the Jim up? Yeah. Brother James. That'd be good. The Member for Lockyer, ladies and gentlemen. Get him up, Jim McDonald.
Okay, our next part of the evening is where we're going to honour our Hall of Fame. This is our first inductees. we're going to induct a number of players each year in, and that'll be done at our presentation banquet at the end of each season. And this year we're going to start with our 1920s, and our first representative from the 1920s is none other than the great man himself, Herb Steinholt. So put your hands together as Ian Steinholt, his grandson, comes forward to accept on his behalf. Remember, Herb played for Valleys 51 times. He represented our great state of Queensland. 10 times he represented Australia. He captained both Queensland and Australia and was voted in the top 100 footballers of the 20th century. The Valleys Oval is named after Herb Steinholt, and there's no Toowoomba team that ever goes around without anybody mentioning, particularly the Clydesdales, the famous name of Herb Steinholt. So congratulations to Herb, our first inductee into the Hall of Fame, representing the decade of the 1920s.
Once again, would have been pretty tough to work through the decades with these, so well done to those.
The amount of Australian representatives that Toowoomba were producing.
And as you said, Paul, this is just the first. There will be, each year, there'll be some Hall of Fames added to that. We might have a very quick chat, if we can, to Ian. Ian, would you like to come forward, mate? Just very quickly, if you'd like to just say a few words, your memories, I guess, and what it's like to be part of this evening.
Well, it's a fabulous honour for me to be here and represent Herb. I left Toowoomba at a pretty early age, but we spent a lot of time around at his place and knocking around there, kicking footies and things like that. But he was an interesting character. His daughter-in-law was a Tom, so she copped a little bit, and then she had 5 daughters. So I'm one of 6, but a couple of those girls would probably like to play for Queensland, I'm sure. I've still got bruises from those years, so yeah, it's a shame. But anyway, he was a great character, and yeah, I'm just proud to be here representing him and Toowoomba and the great rugby league family. I just was at a reunion a week ago with people I played with 40 years ago, so yeah, they're all still friends, so that's what it's all about.
Fantastic, Ian. Great to hear the stories as well tonight, I'm sure. But mate, fantastic to have you here. The Gentle Clydesdale, well done. Good on you. Thanks, mate.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next inductee representing the decade of the 1930s is none other than Nick Madsen, as we ask Ray to come forward, one of his great nephews. We'll see this name honoured again tomorrow, the Madsen Rasmussen Trophy Final, where Wattles and Valleys will take the field. Just recapping on Peter Mick Madsen. He was born in Warwick, played in the 20s and 30s for the Brothers Club and for Stanthorpe, represented Queensland 48 times. How good is that? Australia 9 times, had the honour of captaining both state and country, and voted in the top 100 footballers of the 20th century. Had a first-grade career of 17 seasons with the Brothers Club, a true all-white stalwart he was. Went on to captain coach Stanthorpe after that, and didn't represent Queensland until he was 27 and did it 48 more times. How good is that? Nick Madsen, one of our famous sons here, a front rower from the Toowoomba region.
Now, Ray, you'll be at the game tomorrow. Yes, I certainly will. Just come a bit. You tend to be there each year. You do love it. Yeah. You do love it. So your memories, of course, of Mick. You got a few.
I remember him as a very gentle man. He was a giant. I remember going there when I was 18-year-old to visit him. It was one of the last times I ever saw him before he passed away. And I walked through the front door, and I was 18-year-old. I thought I was a pretty big fella. And he picked me up and cuddled me like I was about 5-year-old. And it absolutely blew me away. A bloke of 77 that just, he read that I was playing football in Toowoomba, and he wanted Dad to bring me up to see him, and he just picked me up and gave me a big cuddle, and I just never forgot that.
What a great memory.
Oh, he's a great fella. He's a champion.
And great to be remembered tonight, but each year remembered as well with the Madsen Rasmussen Trophy Final.
Definitely a great honour for not only Elton and Brett and myself to represent our family for the day up there tomorrow. I still get a kick out of watching football. I was lucky enough to play for too many years. And
you've just had the
as a halfback, mate, or a winger?
And a hooker.
was pretty dumb front row, yeah.
You've just had your knee done, mate. You're going to make a comeback.
I got a new knee 9 weeks ago, so.
Good on you. Comeback. You'll be right for next week.
Yeah, I'll be right to run on next week. Yeah.
Good on you. Round of applause for Ray Madsen, ladies and gentlemen, representing me.
Our next inductee into the TRL Hall of Fame, representing the decade of the 1940s, Pat Coffey McMahon, represented by his son, Pat McMahon Jr. So as Pat comes up to accept this honour on behalf of his father. Pat McMahon was first born in Mount Isa. Well, first born, he was only ever born once in Mount Isa. He played in the 40s and 50s. In Toowoomba, he represented Brothers and the Southern Suburbs Tigers. His position was wing. Queensland represented it 15 times and 9 representative matches for Australia. Along with many other footballers, he found his way to Toowoomba to be coached by the famous Duncan Thompson. At the end of his career, he went out to captain coach Mitchell for a grand final win in 1956. Congratulations to our third inductee, Pat Coffey McMahon.
The 40s. Good on you, Pat. Pat Jr. Must be great thrill to be part of this tonight as well, Pat, I'd imagine.
It's an absolute honour, thank you very much. We left Toowoomba in 1970. We had a hotel up here, the Sideways Hotel. And it's been good to come back. It's certainly changed. I know Dad would love to be here tonight.
You're staying overnight?
Yes, staying overnight.
You get to go to the game tomorrow?
No, we'll be going back tomorrow morning.
That's a shame, but you're always welcome back here any time, mate. The memories must come flooding back too for you.
They certainly did. I've had a great night. It's been absolutely wonderful.
Good on you. Pat McMahon, ladies and gentlemen. Pat McMahon Jr. Well done.
Congratulations there. Representing our Hall of Fame for the 1950s decade, none other than the famous Des McGovern, represented tonight by Des McGovern Jr. So as Des comes up, what an absolute gentleman Des McGovern was many a times, and more recently known, I knew him as the voice on the radio with Pat O'Shea, calling all the Toowoomba Rugby League. He represented Queensland 34 times, Australia 10. He was Australia 7 times. He was a dual kangaroo, impeccably dressed Des wherever you see him, but a true gentleman and loved throughout Toowoomba as an Australian representative, but more as a great bloke. Ladies and gentlemen, our 1950s inductee, Des McGovern.
It's great to have you with us this evening, mate. Once again, it must be great just to be part of the night and hear some of these memories of your father.
It's a great night, and I think history is very important. I think not only rugby league, but I think all organisations should take account of their history and look at the people who founded the sport, who developed the sport, and many of that they went through really tough times. And we've heard stories tonight about people who had to fund their own way. Back in the day, it was really tough. And we can't forget that. Modern players get well paid, get well looked after, get treated in very luxury surroundings, but that wasn't always the case. So I think history is very important, and nights like this, and I congratulate the Toowoomba Rugby League, not only in 100 years, but the notion of picking this great team, this team which is full of very talented athletic champions, is a brilliant idea, because it brings back a lot of the memories that many in this room and many in our community wouldn't remember. And I think it's very worthwhile remembering our history, remembering those stories.
Good on you, Des. Well said, my friend. You've got your reunion next week as well.
We do, yes.
All white / brother players.
Yes.
Yeah, so you look forward to that as well.
Well, indeed, it'll be a quiet night.
I reckon one Des McGovern might be in their team as well. Congratulations, Des.
Thank you.
Another round of applause. Well done.
And I have one of the inductees, Michael Hancock. Michael, what's it mean to you tonight to be named in such a prestigious side?
Oh, look, it's very, very special. You've seen some of the guys up there. Some of those guys I never got to watch play, obviously, but look, it's to be mentioned, number one, but to be in this team, it's always an honour. You know what I mean? So look, and Toowoomba's always had great rugby league players, got a great history. So to be part of it, you know what I mean, and it's something special, and I'll cherish for a long time.
Michael, you come from, or your family comes from a wonderful rugby league town on the Southern Downs, Stanthorpe. Your grandfather played down there in the 30s. What does that mean to you, going back there this year to celebrate that?
Yeah, look, fantastic, and we've got our 100-year celebration this year. Mum still lives there, and I try to go back regularly. I run a golf day every year to try to raise money for the game, and look, it's where I started. And like all my represented football, played for Toowoomba. One of the most memorable games when we beat Winner Manly at 13-12. That was a special night. Yeah, it was. And the two Walker boys were the ball boys on that day, Ben and Shane. So look, special time, special memories, and to be part of this is again, Dad's gone now, but he would have been so proud. And so look, special moments, and the family will be cherished for a long time.
Well, we do the Toowoomba Rugby League media, and mate, the following we have down from Stanthorpe is huge. It's massive. They love their rugby league down. So you're from Stanthorpe. You've come up to play for the Clydesdales as a 17-year-old. Yep. You had blokes on your side like Graham Schultz, John Clancy, Billy Johnson, Terry Cook, and as we touched on before, that 87 series when you went deep into the state league and made the semi-finals. And can you remember up there the day against Winner Manly? It was wet. It was cracking. They had Linda, they had Lewis, they had Miles. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, look, fantastic. I was the kicker in the day, and remember the Walker boys always give it to me a little bit because, even if I was 2 metres from the sideline, I'd always kick it as far as I could kick it, you know what I mean? That's what I got taught. But those memories, I remember when Robert Bruff used to call the Channel 9 back in the day, you know what I mean? And it was a wonderful platform for a lot of people to be seen, you know what I mean? Like those games, they don't do that anymore because, and Toowoomba's not in the state league anymore, or the Super Cup. So get back to that. That'd be fantastic. Hopefully the support will be there that they can, and raise much needed funds because look, we want people to stay here as long as possible. Because it's been a lovely breeding ground. Hence that team out there tonight. You know what I mean? So look, we don't want it to die, and let's hope we can get behind it and keep it flourishing for many years to come.
For something to look forward into the future, at the time when you played for the Clydesdales, you're only 17. How do you mentally prepare yourself? You're playing against men, and for young fellas to take our game forward, how do they prepare themselves to do that?
Oh, look, I think they've got to keep it very, very simple, you know what I mean, and try to, that's the main thing. Enjoy what you do. It's got to be fun as well, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what level you play. And look, I work in the game, and when I go to a junior club, there's only one difference between how they play and what they do at the Broncos, for instance, is the money. That's it. It's the only difference, you know what I mean? Still the same game, and look, I said, keep it simple in your mind, do all the little things properly, and give yourself an opportunity to, to be successful, you know what I mean? So, and that's the thing, because we can't go back, you know what I mean? So they've got to, be here in the now, you know what I mean? And ultimately be a good person, because people want to be involved with good people.
Mate, well said. Well, the rugby league community, we know it's special. What makes it so special? Is it the love of rugby league? What is it? We see each other footballers, and we just know. We don't have to say it. We just see it in the eye. What is that?
I think it's all the families. You know what I mean? So I'm still best friends with my first coach when I was 7. He lives in Stanthorpe. Graham Barry's his name. You know what I mean? And like still best friends. You know what I mean? And that's what influence they have on people. Coaches, and if they're good people, the kids end up being good people, and the whole environment is friendly. So when people come and they bring their little Johnny or Sally, wherever it might be, to that first experience, it's always got to be, and the coaches have a massive impact on that. And the junior clubs, it's always a family orientation, you know what I mean? Because it's a family game, it's a team game, and I think that's what makes rugby league so special.
Well, Michael, on behalf of the Toowoomba Rugby League community, we congratulate you, and we thank you for your contribution you've made to League on the Downs and Stanthorpe, and you've gone off and reached the lofty heights of rugby league, and you've represented the Downs while you've done it. Well done.
Thank you. Thanks, mate.
The next inductee into the Toowoomba Rugby League Hall of Fame, representing the decade of the 1960s, none other than the little man, Johnny Gleeson. As we welcome Johnny back to the stage, who is part of our team of the century. Born in Chinchilla, played during the 50s and the 60s. He played for the clubs here in Toowoomba Brothers and the Southern Suburbs Tigers. Represented Queensland 25 times and Australia 10 times. Won a BRL premiership in the 1967 with Brothers. Brothers Trevor and Joe, very well known throughout the rugby league circles as well. Ladies and gentlemen, what a true gentleman and a champion for the 1960s, and an honour to be part of our Toowoomba Hall of Fame. So most of our inductees tonight may not realise they're actually being inducted.
Now, Jackie Gleeson, ladies and gentlemen, says he's far too shy to be standing up talking to all of you people. But I would like to just mention a couple of things extra about Jack Gleeson. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would have seen some footage there while we had a break, you will have seen him with Cracker. In fact, they were doing the chant and the dance for the Australian team as it was, and they should bring that back actually. But you'll see some of that footage there. But in 1965, listen to this for a record. Jack was the captain of the Queensland team. It was coached by Ripper Doyle, and it included former coach of Alan Ristman, Dennis Monty, Lloyd Little, and John Cracker McDonald. A pretty powerful Queensland team with 5 representatives and the coach, and it was captained by none other than Jackie Gleeson. In 1967, he was on the Kangaroo Tour, which also included from Toowoomba, Elton Rasmussen, Dennis Monty, and John Cracker McDonald. 1967. How times changed when you look into the 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please give Jackie Gleeson another big round of applause.
The next inductee into the Toowoomba Hall of Fame is representing the 1970s. I want to invite Tony King, one of our TRL board members, and a Mustangs board member, up to announce that person. This is a bit of a dream come true for me. On behalf of the Toowoomba Rugby League board, it's with great pleasure that I induct Greg Platt into the Toowoomba Rugby League Hall of Fame. We've listened to Steve Haddon before, and I'm a little bit younger than Steve, but the 1970s were very, very important to me. In the 1970s, the competition was that strong that players didn't have to move from the TRL to captain Queensland and to play for Australia. However, if Platsy did, you look back a few offers, anything could have happened. I remember my dad and my uncles watching the interstate games before the Origin era, constantly saying, if Greg Platts was a New South Welshman, he would be in every Australian side. True champions often come from defeat and how they respond to it. So it was appropriate that Platsy was captain of those sides that were constantly given more challenges every year as our players went south of the border. The more insurmountable the odds were, the better Platsy got. Obviously, he was an inspiration for those in his playing era, but he was a hero for my generation, the teenagers of the 1970s. He continued his legacy as a respected coach and now as a thoughtful administrator of the Toowoomba Rugby League. One of the heads of the National Rugby League said a couple of years ago, at the time it was Brian Canavan, who was the head of football, that the TRL has many assets, and one of their greatest assets is that they have one of the great rugby league role models in Greg Platt. Congratulations. How good's that? 1970s, one of our heroes, Greg Platt. Congratulations, Platsy.
Thank you, Paul. Platsy, how good's this? From yabbing at Kings Creek to on the stage, being a Hall of Famer. No, that's awesome, mate. Great plays in the 70s. Of course, you're a major part of it, as we've heard. Played before Origin, as Kuno rightly said. He nearly had a tear in his eye as well as he said that, because there is no doubt in everyone's mind that you would have featured prominently as you continued on into the 80s. But to captain Queensland, to be part of that history as well, pre-Origin, must have been pretty special as well, coming from where you were, to play in the Toowoomba competition, play for Waddles, represent Queensland, and do so very well, and then represent Australia. Must have been a great honour.
Yeah.
Thanks, Platsy. Thanks very much. Give me a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
So, Greg,
Righto, you played with some really solid people, obviously, in that time. Who was your toughest opponent, would you say?
Oh, I haven't stopped to think really, Jeffrey. I guess probably Fulton was probably the most impressive player that I played against, but I found everything pretty tough. Really, I'm an average bush kid, sort of playing in the big sand pit, and that was always a challenge, but a challenge I really relished and enjoyed.
What about players who played alongside you?
Plenty, you've got to talk to Peter Connell, to Rowan Hancock, to Gary Fishers. Like, Toowoomba's got quality players now, and they did have them, and they're as good as the best. They just need regular competition, good training, and they can do what you see the NRL blokes do, It's all development, it's all opportunity, it's all accepting the challenge and rising to it.
I love watching a game next to Plessy because he analyses the game so brilliantly, even still, and always gives you a comment on what should happen, what shouldn't happen, and he's damn well spot on as well. So you must love that part of the game as well, Plessy.
Yeah, I do. It's a very complex game, and it's made much more complex by people who are full of themselves a lot of the time. Michael Cook used to play proper for Toowoomba. Yep. He said it's a simple game. He said you run, you tackle, you pass, and if you do it better than the other mob, you'll win the game. And that's something like your old man would say. But no, pretty great sport to be involved in. I love the camaraderie. I love the challenge. I love the experiences, and it's been wonderful for me. And this is, I accept it graciously. I say it's undeserved because when I sit down in the audience there looking at the Hall of Famers, not the Hall of Famers, the team of the century, I think, they're in the big sand pit, I'm in the little sand pit, and I was happy to stay there, but this is very flattering, and I'm very honoured to be a recipient.
You've done a great job in our sand pit, I have to say. But you're one of the players here tonight who not only receiving the award as the recipient for that era, but you also coached Stephen Price, Mick Hancock, who are in the room, others that are in the room as well, and you've been coached by others that are in the room here this evening. So tonight for you must be just so special, I would imagine, from that perspective.
It is, it's wonderful, and the words that Des said when he came up is so true, they say you don't know where you're going until you know where you've been, and preserving our history the way that it's been tabled tonight is a big step forward in actually doing it. Anybody here tonight knows what we're about and what we are and what we've achieved, but it's where we're going from here that really makes a difference. And I hope that we can all join in and head in the same direction and make it a great success in the future.
One of the great minds of rugby league, one of the great true gentlemen of the game, ladies and gentlemen, Greg Platt. Well done, Preston.
Well done, Greg. One of our inductees into the Hall of Fame, and still giving back to the game through his involvement on the board of the Toowoomba Rugby League. That brings us to the 1980s, none other than Rowan Hancock, inducted into the Hall of Fame. Rowan started after Rumours International off cook. He went down to watch his daughter play in the State of Origin for Queensland, Steph Hancock, and he's represented tonight by his son-in-law, Tim Doyle. So Tim could come forward to accept on Rowan's behalf. Obviously born in Toowoomba, played in the 70s and 80s. His club was Waddles. They'll be represented tomorrow. They'll be trying to hold the trophy up in memory of thinking of him. Position was front row, second row. Queensland, 20 representative honours, 6 for Australia, made his 82 against New Zealand, and famously played in the inaugural State of Origin in 1980, where Queensland were victorious. Ladies and gentlemen, our 1980s inductee, Rowan Hancock.
Good on you. Well done, Tim. Thanks. You got the heads up, did you, from the table?
No, he didn't tell me at all. The table told me I was coming up, but anyway.
He told us. Unusual for Rowan. Mate, it's sad he's not here because he made the effort, actually, to get back. Going down last night. You didn't travel in all Sydney?
No, I stayed home with the kids. My wife, Kristen, and Rowan and Jenny went down. One thing about Rowan with Stephanie playing, he never missed the game. They flew down yesterday morning and flew back this afternoon. So yeah, had a
He's
great night.
dedicated, isn't he? And of course, he and Stephanie are the first father-daughter to play for Australia. He's very proud of it.
Yeah, it's something that gets mentioned a fair bit.
I thought I'd mention again for you, Tim.
Yeah, no,
go into it.
Yeah,
Your ears are bleeding.
When Stephanie was playing junior footy in Warwick, when she was 10 years old, she couldn't play after she was 11. It wasn't allowed back then, but Rowan's always been proud of her. And when that happened with Steph playing for Queensland and Australia, Rowan, I think he was more proud of that than a lot of things he did in football.
So, Tim, your involvement with the family, obviously you've married into the family, but you've been with them for some time. You know a bit of history. Has any videos been brought out of Rowan, or you seen it?
We saw the one tonight with Kevin Smarty shouldering him under the chin, which is always a pretty popular YouTube video. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, my dad and Rowan played football together years ago. They both, Dad was a Freestone, Rowan was a Killarney. They used to go out and play for Wattle, and then collegians after that. But yeah, Rowan sort of, as a lot of people know, he's a very humble man. He doesn't big time. He doesn't sort of, talk too much about his playing days. And he's always been really proud of his kids and now his grandkids as well. So yeah.
Yeah, great man. Thank you very much, Tim, for coming on this evening. Well done. Give us a photo. There we go, our 1980s inductee, Rowan Hancock. 1990s, none other than Shane Redkey. Congratulations to Shane. He's down in Brisbane reading the news tonight. He does send his best wishes and congratulations to everyone else. He played in the 90s and 2000s. He was also from the club of Wattles, played the position of front row. We all remember him playing for Queensland, 24 origins, 27 Australian Test representative honours, and he was also a captain of Queensland. Our 1990s inductee is Shane Redkey. Put your hands together for the big man. That moves us on to 2000, and our inductee for 2000, he played with him in Queensland, Steve Price. Comes from the Newtown Bluejays here in Toowoomba in the 90s and 2000s. He played for Queensland 28 times, Australia 16 times. He captained the Sydney Bulldogs, 2 premierships down there before he went over to the Auckland Warriors. And in 2004 was awarded the Queensland State of Origin Player of the Series. And always comes back to everything the TRL put on, remembering back to his grassroots. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2000 decades go to Steve Price. Fantastic, Steve. We've already had the interview, but I just wanted to get the update on Jamie Lee. How the Giants gone?
Game's over. They were down by 11.
Okay.
So out of the 8 points from the game, we got 1. They got 7. Because you've got to win, you get points for each quarter. So we're on the last quarter, and that's it now until the end of the World Champ.
Yeah.
So they've got a bit of time to mull over that big loss.
Good on you, mate. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Price. Thanks, mate. And our representative for the 2010, of course, it's going to be the halfback himself, Jonathan Thurston. Comes to Tim as a 15-year-old where he played at St Mary's, and of course, being at St Mary's, he went on to play for the All White Club Brothers. Queensland 37 times, Australia 38, had the honour of captaining both Queensland and Australia, counted as a future immortal and a true gentleman of the game, and he'll be here in Toowoomba next week. Ladies and gentlemen, 2010 inductee is Jonathan Thurston. I'd like to invite Randy Prowse to the stage, please. Randy from K&R and me. No, you're a terrible referee, mate. So Randy's going to come up and join the photograph as a sponsor of all the awards for the Trailblazers, the inductees and the icons. So thank you, Randy.
Thanks, Randy. A big thank you to K&R. You better jump on the photo, Rito, for that one as well. A big thank you to K&R Plumbing Supplies. Of course, Neville, one of those fantastic referees in his time as well. That's why he had the whistle call, but he's up as well. So a big thank you to K&R Plumbing Supplies, great supporters of rugby league for many years. Please give them a big round of applause as well. So there they are, the 20s, Herb Steinort, the 30s, Mick Madsen, the 40s, Cocky McMahon, 50s, Des McGovern, the 60s, Jackie Gleeson, the 70s, Greg Platt, 80s, Rowan Hancock, 90s, Shane Webke, 2000, Stephen Price, and the 2010s, Jonathan Thurston. They're our Hall of Fame inductees. Terrific. Right, so these are the icons, and they are contributions to the game above and beyond a Hall of Famer, ladies and gentlemen. So these are what you class as the pinnacle of the evening, if you like, and there's 4 of them. Thank you very much for your attention here this evening too. I have to say, Paul, the attention of the audience has been tremendous, so we really do appreciate that.
They've been very good. We've got 4 awards to go, and they're our icons, as Jeff said. And our first one that we'd like to honour here tonight has been mentioned many, many times tonight. He's associated with Toowoomba through everything, not just as a player, but what he did for the game off the field, as well as coaching and selecting. Ladies and gentlemen, the first up is Duncan Thompson. So we invite Duncan Stewart, his grandson, to come forward to accept the honour on behalf. Many people will be sitting in the Duncan Thompson grandstand tomorrow to watch the Madsen Rasmussen final. He was an entrepreneur in Toowoomba. You'll remember the Duncan Thompson sports stores. He had plenty of clothing, balls, everything named after him. He also was an entrepreneur. He started the first tennis match under lights ever. Olympic Cup record, 6 straight, halfback from the Newtown Lions and the Valleys Roosters. Ladies and gentlemen, our first icon is Duncan Thompson.
An interesting jersey there too. It's actually Philip this evening who's representing Duncan. There's a slight change in order, which is great. Interesting jersey. I'm sure that Philip will explain a little bit more about that when he comes over to have a quick chat. As he comes over, look at him coming over. Fantastic.
Come on, Paul, he can't vote in Toowoomba.
He's not a resident of the region, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, he doesn't vote in Toowoomba?
He's not a resident of the region. Okay, so how about we explain, Philip, the jersey, now that Pat's just put it away? You want to take it out again?
First of all, can I just say, Duncan Thompson was the patron of the Queensland Rugby League in 1955 when I was born, and because he promoted rugby league, he would always say, "Oh, it's a good gate, a good crowd," and that was something that he wanted to make money for the QRL. So he loved this jersey. As we speak, the Maroons are training in this jersey in Perth. It's called the Captain's Run, which I didn't know about. The Captain's Run is that is Terry Evans has the final run with the team before the game. So the captain calls the shots. The coach is off the field. And they play in this jersey. It's the first jersey this year. There are 300 of these for sale. And this is one I bought. It's number 7, Par's number, halfback. And so I bought that one. And so if you want to buy one of those, they're for sale from the QRL. I'm not advertising it because I love it. But anyway, they're training in that, and then tomorrow night they'll play in their own jersey.
Brilliant.
That's what it's all about.
Philip, your memories of Pa, you said good gate, those sorts of things. Do you have other strong memories? I mean, is he a storyteller as well?
He was a great man. I recall going to the first of all, in Toowoomba growing up, my brother Duncan, my sister Julie are here, and family, and we grew up, and he always went and loved teaching the young people, the high schoolers. He would go in a suit with a bow tie, and that was respect. He had respect, and he said respect me, and that was respectful to them. And so he always trained with people in a suit. He also had a great love of the game, and he invented, as some may know here, the term contract football. In early days, he coined it 1950s, contract football is getting it simple. Yes, he valued, it was always the value of a yard, and you would score a try in 1/8 of a second. He had the idea that a man in football boots could run 100 metres in 12 seconds. You divide that by in 8 metres, he could run in 1 second, all right, and then he could, in an eighth of a second, it would be 1 metre. So you would score a try in 1 metre. And he calculated that in a scientific way. No one else had done that. And that still today is how you score tries. And they worked that out, and the science of football was why he's called the father of coaching.
Well, he's admired and looked up by so many other people, coaches. Wayne Bennett often talks about him. It's remarkable. Now, not only rugby league, but he was a superstar in all sports: cricket, bowls, golf, tennis.
Exactly. Just with Wayne Bennett, his son Ian went to South when Wayne was coaching South and told Wayne about contract football, and Wayne took that on board, and he has since spoken about contract football. But yes, in Toowoomba here, I can't remember all the details, but yes, as you said, he played all those sports. I've forgotten
Tennis, bowls, golf, cricket.
Yes, I've forgotten which one he played for the state.
Cricket, there we go.
Cricket. And then tennis.
Handicap of 3 off golf. Golf.
Yes, he's got this funny story. He told me one day there was a charity at the golf course, and you could only choose one club. So he chose a forward, and you can only play the whole round with a forward with one club. He chose a forward and won the competition. I think even part of the forward.
Wow.
How do you do that?
Remarkable. But he is, what a great man, great memories. Thank you for coming along, you and your family as well. Philip, we really do appreciate it.
There we go, our first icon, Duncan Thompson. Our second one, none other than the man himself, Tom Gorman. Put your hands together for Tommy Gorman. We don't have a representative, sadly. John had to pull out late. He played in the 20s and 30s. His club here in Toowoomba was Brothers. Queensland 34 times, Australia 10. He captained Queensland and Australia. He was voted in the top 100 footballers of the 20th century. And of course, Tom Gorman was inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame for Australia. He's the only Toowoomba Rugby League player, as well as also inducted into the Toowoomba Sports Hall of Fame as one of our inaugural inductees. Ladies and gentlemen, our second icon is Tom Gorman. Our third icon is none other than Duncan Hall. He's represented tonight by Duncan Hall Jr., his son, as Duncan comes forward. Played in the 40s and 50s. He was with the Newtown Blue Bags, the Lions here in Toowoomba. Queensland 24 times, Australia 23. He was voted in the top 100 footballers of the 20th century. Selected in the Australian team of the century. He's also a Toowoomba Rugby League player of the century. He was Queensland and Queensland State of Origin manager. Ladies and gentlemen, one of our most favourite players to come from here, Duncan Hall. So as Duncan Hall Jr. comes over.
Good to see you here back, Duncan. We do see you regularly up here. You're an attendee of the Empire Theatre from time to time, so you're no stranger.
Absolutely. Love coming back to Toowoomba.
That's right, mate. That's right. Talk a bit closer to it, yeah. It's all there, mate. Your memories of your dad, Duncan?
Well, there's the saying about what happens on tour stays on tour. So I
think, guys talk about different parts and the camaraderie, and I do. The 1952-3 Kangaroos, Clive Churchill was captain, Dad was vice captain, used to have reunions at our house in Brisbane. And they'd start one week and then the next week. But, those guys were really, putting it nicely, were thick as thieves. They and someone mentioned earlier that it was a struggle. You had the boat trip over. You played about probably a season and a half when you're away, twice a week, through England. You go to France and come back to England and hop on the boat and go home. They were great, memorable times for those guys.
Duncan, your dad was the manager of the first State of Origin. Do you remember that game in 1980?
No, I do. I do, and also a game late '79. I think was one of the things with the trial venture, and I was the day of the game. I actually played for Queensland against Ireland in some other game that everyone here changed back to rugby league, but I was still no one told me, and I was still playing rugby union. But I remember going to see all the guys at Lane Park, as it was known in those days, and was the preemptive part of the State of Origin. But with Cracker and the two managers, the Dad and Brian Davies, so there was a great combination there, which obviously launched into quite a successful venture all around.
Well, it's tremendous to have you up here. You're always welcome to come back any time. You know that. Great to have you here. Duncan Hall, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, mate.
There we go. That's our third icon from the Toowoomba Rugby League, the famous Duncan Hall. Our fourth and final presentation night is our fourth icon. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for John Cracker McDonald. One of our favourites. Played for Valleys here in Toowoomba before heading down to Manly, Queensland representative, New South Wales 4, Australia 13, was the vice captain of the Australian side. But it was his contribution after he finished playing where he coached our first State of Origin side in 1980, and what a marvellous concept Origin is now. It's the lifeblood of rugby league. He became the president of the Queensland Rugby League. Then he became the chairman of the Australian Rugby League, as well as the chairman of the International Rugby League. And he was also awarded the Queensland Sports Administrator of the Year. And he's still here in Toowoomba, one of our favourites, John Cracker McDonald. Please put your hands together.
Last interview for the night, ladies and gentlemen. Couldn't have thought of a better bloke to interview.
You know anything about him?
Steve Haddon was talking about who, you think are your heroes. Well, I've got to tell you, this is mine right here. Now, Cracker, these nights obviously would bring back a lot of memories. To see Jackie Gleeson up here on stage with you, and you toured with him, played alongside him for Queensland and Australia. Do those memories start to come back to you, and what that was all about playing at that time?
Well, it's a funny thing you say that, because they never leave you. They stay with you forever, those special moments. And certainly I was privileged to have a few of those with some great players and great coaches over the
You did have some terrific coaches, and just looking through those, of course, you had the great Herb Steinort, was one of your first coaches, East State School, and to the Valleys Roosters along that Lindsay Street slope, as Haddon refers to it as. What was Herb like as a coach?
Well, I think, Jeffrey, that we were privileged here in Toowoomba to have such great people behind us. And Herb was one of those people that didn't stand for a lot of nonsense. He was very much about winning games. And to be in his team, you had to do everything to his satisfaction, or else you weren't in the team.
So, Cracker, you had the tutelage of not only Herb, but then in representative teams, you had the man who's also been inducted as an icon in Duncan Thompson as a coach at representative level. And it sounds like he was a scientist of the game, Duncan Thompson. Did he impart that sort of knowledge onto you folks, contract football?
Well, he did do that because he realised that the game wasn't just won on the field, it was about the preparation that was so very important and the right attitude for people when they went on the field to play well. We were very privileged to have him here in Toowoomba to be part of the game. And not only him, but the people that he also tutored in later years. And we've got some in the room here tonight who had the privilege of being on his side.
We did. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's always special, and I have the opportunity from time to time, as Cracker does, to go to our old club in the Valleys Roosters. And for those that don't know the story, this is basically it. The transfer fee for Cracker to go from Valleys to Manly paid for the grounds where Valleys stand today, the Herb Steinwald Oval. So I think it was some $14,000 in today's terms, and it paid for the grounds where Valleys are. So it's always special, you know, to have that story and the connection to Valleys. But when you were at Valleys, 1 week you played for Valleys, the next week you played for Queensland, and the next week you played for Australia. Now, when you were at Manly, you had a number of good coaches down there. You had George Hunter and a bloke by the name of Ron Willey as well in the 1970 and 71 years, that grand final year in 1970. Ron Willey, was he a coach with different stature as those that you've had in Queensland?
Well, I've got to say, Jeff, that all coaches are slightly different in their approach towards the game. And certainly I was privileged to be under those people you mentioned. But at the same time, they wanted to win the game, and they went about their preparation in a very, very methodical way to make sure that the players who went out there to play played to the best of their ability. And that's exactly how things went.
So I guess from a perspective of having the best coaches in the game, you certainly had that. And then, of course, you go on yourself to use that experience and be named the coach of the Queensland team for the first state of origin when you had Rowan Hancock in the team as well as Alan Smith from here. I'd love to have been in the room when Senator Ron McAuliffe said to you, you're coaching that team. That must have been a pretty special moment.
Well, it certainly was a privilege to be coach of that side. And I must say that the attitude that the players adapted to it was a special part of my life because they were just so dedicated in everything that they were told to do, and certainly that resulted in them being successful.
There's some fantastic images if you look at that 1980 side of the coach and the players, and keeping in mind that the Cracker was 36 as the coach of the first state of origin, and Arthur Beecham was the captain at 35. So there wasn't a lot of difference between players, but then you had someone like Mal Meninga and Chris Close, those guys, and Wally Lewis, who were very young. So to have that experience of a 36-year-old, a 35-year-old, as well as the captain, and those young ones, could you see that in the room and how that played out on the field?
Well, of course, he was a very respected player, and the youngsters certainly looked up to his attitude towards the game, and everyone accepted that as a challenge, that game, and certainly it was a great result for us, and something that we'll never forget, the way it was played. And, there was a suggestion that the referee gave us a bit of assistance, but that can apply to any team that wins. People blame the referees, they get beaten. But in our case, it was a very legitimate affair, and we were deserving winners.
20 points to 10, ladies and gentlemen. That was the start of the State of Origin. But of course, then you went into administration and you've gone to the heights of what that is at the international level. But ladies and gentlemen, for someone who's been able to achieve that while still having a business in Toowoomba, raising a family with the beautiful Joan McDonald, having travelled to Sydney with two very young children, in Jim and Jennifer, who are both here this evening, and then coming back to Toowoomba and contributing in such a fine fashion, I could think of no other better person to be inducted as an icon for the Toowoomba Rugby League and the Centenary of League than John Cracker McDonald. Well done.
There we go. Congratulations. That's our four icons: Duncan Thompson, Tom Gorman, Duncan Hall, and John Cracker McDonald. Four fantastic icons who started off for us. in the Toowoomba Rugby League as they get their pictures together with Pat and Paul.
And the fireworks. Brilliant. Just on cue.
Right on time, Wayne Hamlet. Well done. Impact lighting. Good job.
He's done well. This little bloke, he deserves a signature on that football he's done so well.
And don't forget tonight's replay. You can see it on Power TV. Join it on Facebook, and they'll have the release date out. Should be out in a couple of days on Power TV Australia. And make sure you get up to the Athletic Oval tomorrow, mate, for the Madsen Rasmussen final and the other three presidents. We'll see Newtown versus Gundy in the second division, South versus Golby in the 18s, and then Valleys and Wattles do battle in reserve grade, as well as the Hutchie Builders A grade. Go Queensland tomorrow night.
Yeah, well done. Just before we finish, folks, just a little bit of shush. Can we please thank, by way of acclamation, all the team here at Rumours International. They've done an awesome job tonight. They've kept the service going. They have, in fact, offered the room, well, they've donated the room hire and what have you. They've been great supporters, Jimmy and Kathy, Astra Morgus, the team. Look, on behalf of Paul Reedy and myself, it's been our great privilege to be your co-MCs this evening for the centenary of the Toowoomba Rugby League. It's a night we'll never forget, and I hope it's got full of memories that you'll never forget. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.